taxed mentally, emotionally, and physically. Some days it's tough just to get out of bed. But the fact that you're here says you're willing to take control of your circumstance and move towards the next chapter in your life, and there is one. Vesta Divorce was started now almost 13 years ago in New England. We did so because we believe that the divorce market is largely broken. It's combative, it's confusing, and it's costly. And we wanted to take some of the angst out of that. So our mission is to educate, connect, and empower people towards, getting their next chapter, towards moving forward. And I don't care what age you are. There's a phenomenon now called the Great Divorce, where more people are getting married older than younger, or older than ever before. I was 60 when I got divorced. So I can tell you that 60 is the new 40. We're eating better. We're working out more. We're more conscious of mindfulness and meditation and that type of thing. So there's a lot of life ahead of you. And even if you only have one day left, don't you want to live it not in a miserable circumstance? So we are not waving the flag for people to go out and get divorced. That's not what we do. We do believe, though, sometimes if you're in a position that is untenable, that you know is not going to get better. I like to say, and all my colleagues know me, and if you've been on before, I operate much like a coach, is that it takes courage to change your life when your life isn't right. And that doesn't mean to say it's not without some pain, but whether it's your job, your spouse, or some circumstance you're in, if you know it's not going to get better, it takes courage to change your life. But in doing so, you'll be better off. So we started 13 years ago. We've spread across the country. We know we're doing something right. And we have a unique style in that what Vesta has done is put together groups of professionals like us. Generally, the core skill sets are a divorce attorney or a collaborative attorney, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified divorce financial analyst like myself and my partner, Greg Schmidt, a realtor, and a mortgage lender. Those are the core skill sets, but in the Vesta universe network, we have every skill set that you need. We have parenting coaches, we have forensic accountants, we have CPAs, we have career coaches, estate planners, just about anything that you need. What's unique is that we employ what I call the Vesta style, the Vesta collaborative style. I wish when I went through my divorce, I could go in one place and get all the skill sets that I needed. I had all the skill sets that I just mentioned, but guess what? They were siloed. They didn't work together. I told you I operate and have the mindset of a coach. I believe you're much more powerful, much stronger, much higher possibility to be successful by working as a team than as an individual. So what Vesta does is we leverage our skill sets. We leverage our skill sets. We have a fondness for working with one another. We have a great confidence in working with one another. And what that translates into for the people who we serve is that you wind up saving money, you have better understanding of your situation and how to navigate your situation. And moreover, you have a better understanding of what your life is going to look like in post-divorce, how you're going to make sense of it. And that's what everybody asks us, am I going to be okay? We all answer that question in some part. We put on these non-educational events. Tonight, we have a webinar, a live webinar on the special needs and mental health of the spouse and children in divorce. Our keynote will be, Ms. Cheryl Woodhouse, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. We put on these educational events so people can get information and move forward. What I invite you to do is reach out to us for an individual consultation. Many of us will do that, and most of us have a complimentary consultation. So reach out and keep looking forward. So that's the introduction for today. I hope the information is meaningful and impactful for you. We're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Excuse me, I put myself on a timer there. All right, let me share my screen, Patricia, and we'll get started.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and do that legal disclaimer, if you can get us over to that.
Yes, ma'am. 1 second here.
All right, so our legal disclaimer for this evening: the purpose of this program is to provide helpful legal information. It is difficult if not ill-advised, for our legal professionals to provide detailed, specific legal advice. The reasons are that each case is unique and very fact-specific. And there are nuances and details that we do not have the time tonight or the privacy to flesh out. Importantly, our legal professionals adhere to the highest ethical and professional standards. They must be cautious about issues of potential conflict of interest and fulfillment of professional ethical responsibilities in a limited format like this event. With that said, we will do our best to give you important information tonight that will help clear up some of the confusion and uncertainty about divorce. However, some questions may be better suited to a private consultation with one of our legal professionals. We thank you for understanding and hope you will not be offended if your specific questions cannot be answered, or it's suggested that you schedule a private consultation. Next slide. Finally, please understand that the legal information given tonight is to be considered educational, informational, and general in nature. The discussion and question and answer exchanges shall not create an attorney-client relationship and does not carry the protections of confidentiality that apply to an attorney-client relationship. And with that, let's go to our next slide, and then I am going to go ahead. Here's our agenda. So we're going to talk about custody decisions, divorce, other legal, emotional, and financial decisions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our very own Cheryl Woodhouse.
Thanks, Patricia. Hi, my name is Cheryl Woodhouse. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist in the state of California, and I'm here to talk about understanding special needs of children. I'm going to go ahead and read this, but before I do, I want to make a disclaimer that when we talk about special needs of children, they do need to be addressed at the school level. And it's usually with a school psychologist who is receiving special education to address these issues. And they put your children through testing in order to determine the outcome. But I'm here to talk about some things you need to consider while you're facing divorce and you have children that are struggling. So we're going to go over tonight understanding those special needs children, and that is, it refers to those with physical, developmental, intellectual, or emotional disabilities that require additional support and care. There are unique care requirements and financial implications associated with special needs children. These children often require specialized medical treatments, therapies, assistive devices, and educational support, which can significantly impact the family's financial situation. And they are issues that you want to bring to the other members of VESTA that do specialize in these financial implications. Next slide. The slide before. Mental health and special needs. So when you're going through divorce, it's very easy to forget about your children in a sense, because you're so naturally caught up in the devastation that you're feeling, which is very normal. And we're all here to tell you that we've all experienced this in some way or another, or most of us on the VESTA team. And we know that it's very traumatic. And that's why we're here to reduce your anxiety and your stress. But if you see your children really acting out during this time, we're here to recommend not only look at your divorce and how that may be impacting them, but there may be something underneath that's lurking there. And like I said, I'm going to reiterate, it's very important that if you see some academic issues that are surfacing, there may be undiagnosed academic problems. And what I mean by that is there can be developmental disabilities, yes, but learning disabilities. There can be processing speed problems. There can be math learning disabilities. There can be reading disabilities. And you want to talk to your school and your school psychologist of your child or children to address that. There's also some problems sometimes with kids, and it breaks my heart to see whether, the family's intact or they're going through a divorce, where kids' grades are lowering and lowering, and they're getting yelled at and they're getting punished ad nauseum because they just don't get the schoolwork. Well, yes, sometimes it's the learning disability, but other times it's what we call OHI or other health impaired. And as an example, that would be attention deficit, and that can be ADD or ADHD, and that stands for attention deficit hyperactive disorder. There's no real definitive test for that, but what you want to do is talk to the school and the teachers involved to see if this is being observed in the classroom. If you usually see that your kids are struggling at home, but they're perfect angels at school, they're making good grades at school, then the school's not going to take it seriously and they're going to say you've got home issues. But if you see a pervasive pattern of, or that it's happening at the school site as well as your home, and the child seems to really be missing some building blocks, that's when you want to go ahead and talk to the school psychologist, insist on getting them tested. The other thing you want to think about is undiagnosed mental health problems. Some kids are just oppositional because they're angry. And that can happen as a result of a divorce, but sometimes that happens prior to the divorce. And that's a cry for help. Whether you see your child cutting on themselves, even if it's superficial, or they're talking back to the teacher and then they come home and they talk back at you, that needs to be addressed. It's a cry for help. The other thing that would be way more serious is if you see destruction of property, severe volatile behavior, especially if you see a child who's killing live things or injuring a family pet. You want to start looking at conduct disorder. And if you just see basic things like wetting the bed that's inappropriate, biting nails, picking at their skin, not getting up easily in the morning to go to school, making passing comments like I wish I wasn't here, obviously you have to take that seriously. And I would at least first start with your primary care or pediatrician, whichever is appropriate, to look at if there's any mental health problems. And if it gets serious enough, obviously you would take them to a child psychiatrist. But we're here to tell you it's normal for both adults as well as kids to have a reaction to stress during the divorce. Everything that once was is no longer. Kids wonder where they're going to live, whether they get to keep their friends as usual or their teachers, and whatever you can do to help with their adjustment. And we normally diagnose that as an adjustment disorder. When kids are facing losing both their parents under the same roof, losing maybe the house that they've always lived in, or having to move away from friends, or saying goodbye to a teacher they absolutely love. So it's so very important that you look at this. Yes, it's normal, but it's an abnormal situation normally played out. And the thing that's also not on this slide is we've talked a lot about children. I want to really encourage you that if you're feeling really out of sorts and you can't get out of bed every single day and you're finding it's really hard to take care of your kids because you can't take care of yourself, you definitely want to talk to a mental health professional. And definitely if you're looking at medication, which I'm not against, taking a low dose of an SSRI or an antidepressant temporarily, it can help level your emotions so that you can take care of the tasks at hand if you're against going to a psychiatrist. But I would definitely consider seeing a psychiatrist if it's prolonged and it's affecting so many areas of your life. So you definitely want to put that oxygen mask on you first, the adult, so that you're alive and well to take care of your children. So just make sure that you see a licensed professional for any of your mental health needs. If it's more, I don't know what I want to do with my life, then look at a life coach. That's not therapy in the truest sense. It's looking at your goals moving forward as a single person. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cheryl. So discussing our legal issues with special needs children. So there's going to be some considerations that you want to look at if you have a child that has special needs, it's diagnosed as a developmentally delayed Young adult. So there is adult child support available. This is available if there is some sort of diagnosis that your child cannot do the same things as another 18-year-old. So if you have a child that's capable of going to college, taking college classes, that's not going to be one of the disabilities that would necessarily qualify for that adult child support. If the other parent does not agree on the diagnosis, you have to make sure you file that request for order, that you get that determination before your child turns 18, before the court loses that jurisdiction. And then when we look at legal custody and IEPs, when you share joint legal custody, neither parent can act unilaterally. Both parents have educational rights to the children. They need to be provided notice of IEPs. Both parents need to have the opportunity to sign the IEPs, agree to any services. And then if one of the parents is non-responsive, then you would go into court and you would seek that intervention. You could possibly request sole legal custody, final decision-making authority as to the educational issue, and being able to agree to services and obtain services. Another consideration that you want to look at is when your child turns 18, you no longer have the educational or medical rights or the access to information for your child, even if they're developmentally delayed. So the way to get over that is you need to file for conservatorships. And that needs to be done prior to your child's 18th birthday. Right now, at least in Orange County, LA County, our probate courts are really backed up. They've been backed up for many years. And so I generally recommend that you start your probate case, your conservatorship case, when your child turns age 17. That's the time to start gathering information, building the file, getting the capacity declarations done. And then by age 17 and a half, that case should be filed with the court. And what we look at for a limited conservatorship is that child able to make sound decisions? Are they able to manage their own affairs? Are they able to enter into contracts? And so there's a lot of criteria that you want to look at. So making sure that you're working with somebody who's experienced in that type of law. Also look at special needs trust. What that does is it provides for your child if something were to happen to you, or even can provide for the child in your lifetime. They need to be written in a real specific way. If they're not, it can cause your child to potentially lose benefits, and you don't want that. There's a lot of special services and programs that can be provided through regional centers and through public benefits, through SSI and everything. And so you want to make sure you don't disqualify your child from getting those services. Next slide, please, Glenn. All right, and then other considerations. So high conflict parenting disputes. Maybe you have a spouse with some sort of mental illness or a personality disorder, some sort of high conflict personality disorder. And when these people with mental illness or sometimes substance abuse issues, high conflict parents enter into the court system, it can cause ongoing chaos throughout the lifetime of these children. My practice is solely collaborative divorce and mediation. And I find the collaborative model works really well with parents with mental illness or with some sort of high conflict personality disorder, because we always have a mental health professional on our team. But if you are engaged in the court system, you may need to get a full custody evaluation with psychological testing, or a parenting plan assessment if you're in Orange County, also called a child custody investigation in LA. If the conflict's ongoing, you can ask the court to appoint an attorney for your children. I'm on the court list as a minors counsel. I've worked representing children, and they make All of us that are trained and qualified as minors counsel attend a lot of classes. We have to learn about personality disorders, different mental health issues, substance abuse. So most attorneys that are appointed for your children are going to be able to understand that and see what those issues are. And then out of court options. So mediation always works. It is an option that you have. And with that, you're agreeing to resolve your case outside of court. You can work together with your spouse, even if the two of you are represented by counsel, and come up with agreements and come up with a parenting plan to ensure that your children are safe and not exposed to that ongoing conflict. The other option are parenting plan coordinators. Sometimes those are appointed by the court. So I've been called in to work with spouses on cases as a high conflict parenting plan coordinator. Really, when the court's just tired of making orders or tired of seeing this family in court, you can also agree to privately use a parenting plan coordinator. And in this role, it's kind of a hybrid of acting as a mediator and acting as minors counsel. So when it's agreed upon, there would be recommendations made. If it's court appointed, those recommendations are generally adopted by the judge. So our next slide, please, Glenn. All right, and now I'm turning it over to Glenn on his side. So thank you very much.
I think what we're going to do, Greg, why don't you come on as well? We'll alternate bullet points because we're pressed on time. We have to get out in 30 minutes. I apologize to the attendees. This is one of our events. It's a live event. We have to do it under 30 minutes. So we do these events ongoing. We do, I don't know, 3 or 4 a month. So you'll be able to come back and, I invite you again to reach out to us for a private consultation. And I also meant to note that you can work with any one of us, any combination of us, or all of us. I know the lawyers are in California, kind of confined to their legal advice in California. Greg and I have clients all over the country, and some of the others are not encumbered by that as well. So, this is a subject near to me. I just got off of a board where I served for like 6 years that is a nonprofit that helps families and children affected by autism. And I know the challenges. In fact, there's a staggering statistic that 3 out of every 4 families with special needs children go through divorce. My heart goes out for that. So know that when you go through divorce and having children with special needs, it introduces very unique financial considerations that really require careful planning and decision-making because in any divorce, you want to set up things, take care of your child. And the challenges faced by parents with special needs children during divorce, divorcing parents have to navigate the complexities of ensuring that the child has continuing care. And at the same time, protecting their assets. So there's a lot that goes into that. Patricia mentioned the regional centers. Okay, so how do we continue to get care for our child without depleting the assets? And she mentioned the use of some things like perhaps special trusts that are set up for that particular reason. So there are some specific financial considerations that go above and beyond the normal marital asset division, child support, spouse support calculation that we do, and they need to be, my position is that in any circumstance, particularly one like this, is that you put yourself in a position to make informed decisions. And I'm okay with any decision that you make as long as it's informed and you understand the impact of that decision on your child and on your life. So we're going to look at a few financial considerations, including decisions regarding government assistance for continuing care and strategies to protect assets in the event of divorce or death of one of the parents. Greg?
Thank you, Glenn.
Yep.
So divorce in general, it's gonna create some financial pressure regardless of whether or not there are any special needs issues involved. But when you pair that with some special needs issues, things get even more complex, and there are more considerations to be taken into consideration. Inevitably, throughout the divorce process, you're taking the resources that were supporting a single household, and you are now going to need to support two households. And so there is scarcity in most cases, unless there was an abundance prior to the divorce. There's almost guaranteed to be scarcity post-divorce. And so it's really important for people to take the time to think about what the next chapter of their life is going to look like. And when you have special needs children, it becomes even more important to really consider, what is life going to look like? What do you want it to look like? And then connect that with what resources you have in order to realize that dream moving forward. And it can be really important to work together with your soon-to-be ex-spouse to make that happen. Despite the fact that you may not be together moving forward, for your children's sake, it can be powerful to be able to, share the load there. But things that you might, so along with what I just said, there's going to be increased expenses because you've got multiple households. There's going to be travel between the households. The logistics will be, something to consider. What happens with support? How much supervision, what does supervision of your children look like? All of these things are expenses. So it really requires careful financial planning to ensure that, your child gets the care that they need, despite the fact that you've got these heightened expenses everywhere in your life. And so one of the most important things is to look for the sustainability of your plan long term. And so you can't ignore the sustainability of the plan at any point, because the decisions that you make today have lasting consequences, 1, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And eventually, you will also need to retire. You're not going to be able to work for the rest of your life. And so you need to plan for the eventuality that your income is going to change or reduce or go away entirely, at a certain point. And so it's paramount that you have a team of individuals to provide not only financial advice, but also legal advice, emotional advice. All of these things are tremendously important to coordinate, not just have, but all of these different professionals that are helping you need to be coordinated in their effort to make sure that the plan actually works.
Let me
Okay,
jump in
because-
right there, Greg. Let me jump in. Because we got to close real quick, and it's hard to do it so fast, but you're talking again, my coach speak. Okay, I played college sports, I coach youth sports, I had 100 direct reports. I believe coaches believe in planning. Coaches, CEOs, political leaders, anybody of great success believes in planning with it, because they believe that without a plan, you're leaving some things to chance. Without a plan, you're flying by the seat of your pants. So put yourself in a position to make informed decisions. Come back to more events like this. Look at it on video on demand. Reach out to us for consultations, if you would, and realize that this is you're negotiating a deal. You're negotiating a business deal is the bottom line, but you want to do it in the best interest, really, of everybody. So we want to thank you for being here. Cheryl and Patricia, would you come back? Give you a chance to show your faces. We're Vesta Divorce, the Irvine Hub. Pleased to have you here, and keep looking forward. I have a phrase: always forward, forward, always. Forward, always, always forward. Thank you for being here.
Give me just a moment. I'm going to take us off YouTube and we can